Now with this door, with those types of hinges up here, there's a little bit of slop there. And if I can adjust the screw just right down at the bottom to make that wider, maybe that will allow the top to push over. And you see that gap right there? Okay, I'm gonna leave this camera right like that. And I'm gonna open the door and kind of push on it and see if that moves a little bit. You see how that moves? Like that. Look at that. That's kind of how those hinges work. So that tells me there's some gap there. And hopefully I can take that bottom one and screw it in a little bit. And when I do that, I'm hoping that this door will kind of allow itself to push this way too. So I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but I can always try, right? And so I'm taking my tripod, I'm just raising it up so I can get this down here lower. See if I can't tighten up this screw here. I believe it's going to be if I take that screw and tighten it to the right. I'm going to try that first. And it said I can only do it with the hand tighten it with the screwdriver, right? I can't go any tighter than that. So I don't know if this is going to do it or not. Let's just see what happens. It almost seemed like it went a little bit better. And see, by doing that, see how much bigger the gap is there? Because I tightened that screw up against there and it went all the way. And so that's taken this door, pushed it over that way, just a little. It's not a whole lot, but a little bit. And that one's about the same. And it's not as bad now, is it? There. That's one thing that I can do, and I can't do it any further because this screw seems to be tight down here. Let's take my screwdriver and see if I can't tighten it anymore. I don't think I can. Now, even if I get a bigger screwdriver, I don't think I can get it any tighter. Tightening this up. Hey, that's it. That's all I can do. And I was pretty sure it was turning to the right to bring this out, but if you're not sure you can't do it that way, turn it to the left, open and close the door again and see what happens. You know? And you can do that. I'm not going to take that any further than that, even though I know this up here could push that way further if I thought I could get that closer. And I probably could get that closer if I did the same thing. If you watch most of my videos on how to fix sagging doors, a lot of times I'll take that top hinge and take it off, pre-drill some holes in there, put some screws in there and all that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm going to do that on this particular door, but let's just see if that can push a little bit more, which I think it can. See there? Isn't that something? It's like, how can I keep that up like that? Because no matter what I do with that screw, that just kind of moves that gap a little bit the other way. And I don't really want to, you know, get it up that high, because like I was telling you before, I was kind of look at all the doors and make a decision what to do. And see, if I move that door to the left further, it's going to make this gap that much bigger. Look how big that gap is now. That's because when they installed it, they didn't install it properly. This is about an 18-year-old door. It's on the exterior. We got stucco on here. We don't have any trim here. And I don't want that gap to get much bigger. Because see, we've got that weather stripping here, but I don't want it to go beyond that, because that's what's keeping the cold air out of the house in the summer or the winter, and the hot air from coming in the summer, and the cold air from coming in the winter. I don't necessarily want that to be that much bigger. But what else could I do? Well, you remember the plastic weather stripping kind of on that door shoe, which kind of surprised me, because usually I don't see that. Usually I only see those feelers that are rubber and not that hard plastic. So I think I'm going to try this. I've got a reamer bit on here, and I think it's getting kind of dull, and I have another bit that I might end up having to get out. It doesn't cone like this. It's about this thick, and it's just straight, but it's got the teeth on here. See these teeth? I've used this on door strikes and stuff to adjust those, and strike plates for deadbolts and things like that nature. And I've already kind of messed this up a little bit, but I think it's still sharp enough to cut the that plastic. And see, I don't have to use the tip. I can come down about to there and start cutting from here to about there. You know what I mean? And then I think I can still use this. And I don't think I have to do a whole lot down there. So I'm going to give that a shot. And if I can't get that right, then what do you suppose I'm going to do? I'm going to have to prop this open, and then I'm going to have to get some blocks of wood or something underneath here to block this up. Keep the door open like that. Okay? And then I would go up here, take the weather stripping off, kind of like that last video I did for this other door on how I fixed this one. If you saw how I did that, you would know what I could do possibly here. Take the weather stripping off, take these screws out, pop that off, pre-drill a hole down here, pre-drill a hole up there into the wood, because this would be folded back, see? And then I would put 2 long screws in there into the door, through the door jamb, into the 2x6 that's behind there, suck this in a little bit, and I'll bet you I could suck it in maybe a 1/16 of an inch, and then reflop this back, put the hinge back on there. Okay, I could do that. And then when I close the door, this gap right up here would be just a hair smaller than what it is now. Just a little bit is all. And that's all I would need. But then that would mean this would move that way a little bit, and I would gain a bigger gap there. But so because I've got such a big gap here, and now on most doors you're not going to see a big huge gap like that. When your door's sagging, there's no way you should see a big gap like that. If this door was sagging off of the hinges, it would be sagged over to the right. You'd hardly have any gap there at all. In fact, a lot of times when I do a door, the top part of the door here is already rubbing the edge. Is already rubbing the edge of the door jamb. Okay? That's not the case here, is it? That's why I really don't think I want to move it anymore. And the door is still operating properly. See, when you lift this up, it throws the bolt out, and it pushes these down, and then it throws that top one up like that. And then there's one at the bottom. See this one here, it goes down, and that goes down into the threshold there. And then the one at the top goes up into that little strike plate hole up there. And the other two go in here. Okay, so when you do pull that up, then you still have to turn this until it clicks to make sure that that's locked. When we first moved in here, I wasn't sure how that worked because one of them wouldn't click in, and it was because it needed to be adjusted, and I didn't think that really had anything to do with that, and I pulled this up thinking it was locked. Well, the door on the outside was still unlocked until this clicks, okay? But I kind of like that because it gives you 5 points. That one coming out plus, actually 6 points, plus your spring-loaded latch, door latch right there, and then you've got that one there, down there. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places on there for that door to close in there, and you actually have 5 points of locking capabilities so that nobody will be able to go in there later on the outside on this one and try to wedge this door open. Now on lots of doors, especially something like this on exterior, you should not be able to take a pin, the door pin, and pop it out, because even though this is locked on this side, if I wanted to get in here, I could pop these pins out if these hinges were not non-removable hinge pins. NRPs they're called. Non-removable pin, NRP. And that means there should be a little set screw on the inside. Let's take a look at that and see. See there? Look at that. See this hinge? See that little set screw right there? There's that set screw goes in to the pin. And see, I checked it before to make sure that's tight. That's just a little set screw that goes in, and on this pin, if I were to pull that pin out, I'd first have to undo this screw here, and then I can pop the pin out. And we take the pin out, there's a little groove, a dado groove, all the way around the hinge pin itself, right from here to about there. You pop it in there, then you put the screw in there. And see, sometimes each hinge does it, but see this one here? This one doesn't have one, does it? It's got one here, and you look up here, there's nothing up here. So that's okay. It prevents anybody from breaking into your house with that. Lots of times they'll do it with all 3 hinges, and on those particular hinges, they're way more expensive. The NRP hinges are way more expensive than the regular hinges, so they just said, okay, fine, we're only going to put one, and they're putting it here. It would give a thief an idea of trying to beat this one out, and they could beat that one out, but they couldn't take this hinge pin out because of that screw in there. Okay, and that's how all of them work. Now see, this door swings in, so you shouldn't need it. You won't have it. You generally won't have it on any doors that swing in. You see there? There's nothing there. You go up to this one, there's nothing. See? And there's nothing up there. So that gives you an idea. If somebody didn't have all these 3 hinges with NRPs, well, they only have the one. But since you can't beat that out, if they didn't have that, I could pop all 3 of those hinges out, and I could take a pry bar or something and get this side out a little bit, and then pull the door out at an angle to where it got out of these latches, let's say, and I could get into the house. Although when I lock it, these pins actually go down, but see, that's okay. I could still pull it out at an angle, and I could get in if there was no NRP hinge there. Now another thing I've seen is maybe they do 2 NRP hinges, the top one the top one up here and the middle one, and maybe not the bottom one. Or you can maybe do just the bottom one and the top one, let's say, and not the middle one. The best way is to have all three hinges have NRP hinges on there, because I don't want to have a thief be able to pop the hinge pin out at the bottom thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, and then the top one, and then have them beat and beat and beat on this one. Maybe it breaks the little set screw or something, and they can finally get in or something, or they get so pissed off they break the window, or who knows. I mean, I don't know how a thief would actually respond at that point and act, but that's what the NRP hinges are for an exterior door that swings out. I didn't even know I was going to talk about this. So see, I never know when I make a video exactly what I'm going to say, what I'm going to come up with. Okay, but so for all intents purposes for here, I'm going to take my reamer bit and I'm going to try to come underneath here. And remember I showed you there's two hard plastic, one here, one there. I'm going to try to do just the inside, and I don't know, we'll see how easy it is going to be to do that. And because I've already lifted the door, up a little bit by moving it over that way, I now see it's only, I can tell it's only rubbing from about here to here. Before it was rubbing from this point all the way across. Now it's only from about here over. We'll see how this goes. And if it goes too hard, then you know what my next thing's going to be. So I'll have to remove that hinge and try to suck that over further. Okay? Stick around. See if I can get this done. Well, that's all I got for this time. But I'll be back with more videos.